Hello, good morning, Lakewood. I'm Jacob Isaac.
And I'm Hannah Bustad.
And this is the Cougar News.
So today on our show, we have a new segment of Faculty Focus with Linda McAllister.
We're here today with Mr. Bill Buchanan, Patriot, teacher, and super Seahawks fan.
Not New England Patriot.
Of course not.
Seattle Seahawks.
Seattle Seahawks. Gorgeous.
Seattle Seahawks.
Mr. Buchanan, you started your career in the military. Can you tell us a bit about your time there and kind of what your experiences were?
Well, the military tends to take you to a lot of strange places. So I've been to every state in the country, overseas, Panama, Korea, Japan, all of Europe, or all of Western Europe rather, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, Egypt. So it takes you to lots of places. And you also, some people have the notion that you go there and there's only one thing that you do. Well, I was an infantry officer and an operations officer, but I also was a heavy mortar officer and an electronic warfare officer. And my jobs included everything from being a rifle platoon leader in an airborne infantry division to my last job was running a nuclear command and control facility. And a lot of stops in between, from the Pentagon to Alaska.
After your time in the military, you went on to a teaching degree. So can you tell us a bit about your college experience and where your career took you after that?
Oh, thank you. My undergraduate degree is in Asian philosophy from the University of Missouri. But the Army sends you to lots of schools, from airborne school, jump master school, air movement operations school, up to more collegiate level schools like Command and General Staff College, Armed Forces Staff College, and the Command Organizational Effectiveness Staff Officer School. So that's a lot of education there. I also picked up my master's degree when I was in the Army back in '81 from Pacific Lutheran University. Local, go Lutes. And then when I got out of the Army, you had to decide what to do next. And there were a couple of choices. One was to be a surveyor, because I like being out on my own. I like walking through the woods. I don't mind carrying heavy equipment when I'm doing that. But that was also the same time that the Bennett report came out and it said that education was in trouble. So I said, okay. So I served in the military because I thought the nation needed me there. And I got in the business of education because I thought the nation needed me there. So that's why I got in the business of education. Went to Western, picked up my teaching certificate. Saw an advertisement for a teaching position here at Lakewood. I didn't realize when I was living in Arlington that there was a school district here across the highway. I made one application, one interview, and got hired. Now, the other thing I did during my educational career is at Western, my first class at Western, that's where I met Mrs. Buchanan. And the best thing I've done for education is to bring Mrs. Buchanan to Lakewood School District.
One of the things that I know that you've done is you take students to different places around the world almost every year. Why is that a trip that's important to you?
Well, we started in the middle school with taking kids to Washington, D.C. and Jamestown, and then up to New York and Boston. And I'm very, very pleased since I moved to the high school that Jay Carlson has picked that mission up and continued to run those trips. Since then, we've taken students to Spain, Gibraltar, and Morocco, to England and France, to Italy, to Germany, Prague, Switzerland, back to France again. And all of them have been great trips. Every kid that we've ever traveled with has been just wonderful. And that goes, by the way, all the way down to our middle school trips. But why is that important? Well, when you're a history teacher particularly, but I think this applies elsewhere also, is there's such a difference between standing here and telling folks about Henry VIII or Julius Caesar versus being able to stand on the steps where Julius Caesar stood, or where Julius Caesar was murdered, or where Anne Boleyn lost her head. And when you describe to students the difference between a Gothic cathedral with flying arches and flying buttresses and groin vaults overhead and so on versus another kind of cathedral, Baroque cathedral, for example, it's all pretty dry in class. It's kind of like, this is just something I have to memorize. But when you're standing there, not only do you want to know, but the people around you want to know what the difference is and why that difference represents something different in the culture that was going on. And it all just becomes alive. So that's why we do it. We took kids overseas every other year. I made my last trip with students overseas, I think anyway. So in a way that's kind of sad, but Mrs. Buchanan and I continue to travel. This year we're back to France again.
So, rumor has it that you're a Seahawk fanatic and a season ticket holder. Can you tell us more about your love of the sport?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm not a Seahawk fanatic. I'm a Seahawk fundamentalist. Secondly, I've been a Seahawk fan since they first got started. And back then, when a franchise came along, they didn't give you some of the advantages that new franchises get today. You get kind of the leavings left over from other teams. And they still managed to pull out 2 wins in that first season. And they were kind of famous for doing trick plays and funny plays and so on. So I've been a fan since the Seahawks got started. I've been a season ticket holder since 2003. And there is something exciting about being in the stands. Having been a season ticket holder since 2003, me and my son, who mostly is the one who goes to games with me, we've been to 3 conference championship games. We won all 3 of those conference championship games. So that's kind of exciting too, to be just a little bit a part of Seahawk history. And of course, when you go to the games, you don't go just to watch, you go because you're a participant. You have to do your job to help the Seahawks win. So there's a level of ownership there. They have done an amazing job as a franchise in terms of the personnel that they've brought in, the people they've brought in, but also all the other jobs that are associated with that. The marketing, when you look around that stadium and you see people wearing 6 or 8 items of Seahawk gear, you know that somebody has got that marketing thing down well. So I suppose they're admirable in that way also. This year we're just hoping the Hawks are going to make it back to the Super Bowl, and we're hoping that Russ is going to get a little bit more mobile here as he recovers from his injury. So go Hawks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for allowing us to interview you. We will see you later.
Hey guys, I think we have the Weather Wizard next. Let's go check that out.
Hello folks, it's the Wizard of Weather coming to you live from the back of Deputy Stitch's car. A few weeks ago, I predicted that there would be a storm coming and it didn't exactly blow over too well, so people are quite upset with me. This week, I'm going to get the forecast right. There's going to be quite a bit of rain, so stock up on umbrellas and raincoats. That's about it for this week. See you later.
Alright, Jacob, that looks like that's all we have from Studio 54.
Have a great weekend.